Hey guys, welcome back. Are you looking for some fun new ideas for watercolor pencils? Today I'm actually testing out a brand new set of Caran D'ache watercolor pencils to show you how to paint this lovely bottlenose dolphin poking his head out of the water. The set I'm trying out today by Caran D'ache is the Supracolor soft set. Caran D'ache does make a lot of varieties of watercolor pencils, and the Supracolor soft come in a lot of different sets. This is the set of 40 colors, and it comes in this really nice tin, and you can see there's a great variety of colors within the set. I especially like the variety of grays that I can use, as well as blues. And these are going to be essential for the painting that we're doing today. Since it's a dolphin in the water, we'll be using quite a few of these blues and grays today. I also have some water brush pens. These are by Creative Mark Aquastroke, and I have several different sizes. My paper today is Fabriano Artistico 140 pound cold press paper, size 5x7. I start by sketching on the dolphin. I like to begin by putting little tick marks on the paper to indicate where I want to put my lines, and this way I'm not fully committing to any strong lines before I sketch in those swooping broader strokes. Once I'm confident with my measurements, I can go ahead and sketch in with more confident pencil lines. You don't want to go too dark with your pencil sketch. Really, you just need to get enough information on your paper so that you can start to paint. The drawing is important, so make sure that you're carefully measuring and being accurate with the locations of all of your curves. This does take practice, just the initial sketch. I just want to show you my water brush pen. I have several sizes. This is a medium brush stroke, and then I also have a nice chisel tip flat brush. All you do is, it's a canister that holds water, and you just squeeze it and the water disperses through the tip. I'm going to start by selecting some of my grays, black, white, and several of my blues. I'm just going to take them out of the case and set them next to my drawing so that they're ready to go. Now, because the dolphin is sort of a tan color, he's not really blue or gray, I'm beginning with this yellow ochre color and just very lightly sketching in some of the initial colors of yellow that I see in my reference photo. I'm then going over those layers with a medium gray. On the underside of the dolphin's jaw, there's a very strong shadow, and so this one's going to require several layers. With this initial sketching of color, it tends to look a little bit messy. It's really hard to tell at first how it's going to look when you add the water, so you have to kind of use your imagination. Just remember that if you press lightly, that's okay. The water brush pen will help spread out that paint, and so you don't need to feel like you need to fill in every single groove on your paper. Once you blend with the water brush will do that for you. It is important, however, when you have areas with darker values, to layer your colors on top of each other and make sure you have enough pigment on the paper. If you don't go dark enough at first, that's okay. You can always add more layers later. Here I'm darkening underneath the mouth and above on the bottle nose, just using a dark brown and some black, and then filling in the black in the mouth. This is a great way to start. It's just by sketching in, almost imagining you're just using colored pencils. You just want to get the basic colors right and the values too. I do a lot of layering when I'm using watercolor pencils, just like I would with regular colored pencils. But again, you do have to kind of use your imagination to see how it'll all look when it's blended together. For the water reflections, keep in mind that you'll want to mimic the colors you see within the dolphin on the surface of the water for a more realistic reflected look. Now I'm taking my water brush, which is already filled with water, and gently squeezing some water out on the surface of the paper. You can see as I softly scrub that water across our pencil, it's blending out so nicely. You'll want to be careful in areas where you have yellow against blue that you don't accidentally mix a green together, so maybe blend those side by side rather than across each other to avoid any unwanted color mixing. So I'm just continuing to softly blend with my fine-tipped water brush. As we come over to the side of the head, there was a lot less pencil markings here, so the values are going to be much lighter, which is exactly what I wanted. And you can see it's blending out the black really nicely along the underside of the eye. Sometimes you'll need to switch the directions of your brush strokes depending on where you want to push the paint. This yellow is quite strong. I might need to go over it again with some other colors. blending out the black inside of the eye. And then I'm adding another layer of black pencil across the mouth because I didn't feel like it went dark enough. And just reinforcing those little swooping shapes inside of the dolphin's head. And adding another layer of dark gray around the eye. You can actually use your pencils on wet paper or on dry paper. I prefer to add more layers when the paper's already dry. I feel like I have more control over it that way. Now for the water, I have a variety of blues. I'm using my brightest blues in the set and adding some brown in too, where I see the reflection of the head on the water. It's okay if these don't look exactly like the photo. Just try to get the basic colors and values correct. You don't have to get all the exact little ripple details that you see. That might be really challenging to do when you're trying to do just a quick, fun little study of a dolphin. So just very quickly block in some nice blue shapes. It doesn't have to look perfect yet. Remember, when we add the water, that'll be your opportunity to blend and smooth everything out. So in the water, I'm just alternating between light blue and dark blue. And then I'm taking my chisel-tipped water brush, and I really like the control that you can have with the end of this brush head, and I'm using broader brush strokes and skinnier brush strokes as needed. Whenever you want to cover a broader surface, you can just turn your brush sideways so that the flat side is facing your paper and just squeeze out more water if you'd like it to look even more watercolor-like in its effects. It's really up to you how much control you want to try to wield over these paints. Remember, just like any watercolor painting, the more water you use, the less control you have, and the less water, the more control. So it's completely up to you and what look you're going for. Already I can tell I'm going to need to add a little bit more color on top of this, but for now I'm just blending out my first layer using the water in my water brush. Going a little bit darker in the eye one more time. If there's one complaint I have about watercolor pencils, it's that it's hard for me to get as dark as I would with my regular watercolor paints. I do have to layer quite a bit. Now the fun thing though is that you can use your white watercolor pencil and go over the top of your dry paint to add highlights, and they work really, really well. I just added some reflections of the water on the dolphin's jaw. Now I'm going darker with that flapper that's underneath the water, adding my black and then smoothing it out with the water brush. It is just so much fun to see how the pencils are transformed on the surface of the paper as soon as you add the water. This is really such a fun medium, and it never ceases to surprise me. Now that the water is mostly dry, I'm going back in with more of my blue colors and just adding even more ripples, some more vibrant blues, some darker ripple shapes, and then again going in and blending with my water brush. Here I'm using my fine tip brush because I want to control the ripple shapes a little bit more than I could with the chisel tip brush. I'm really loving these beautiful blues. They're super vibrant, and I'm enjoying the quality of these pencils. They're working really well on my watercolor paper surface. I've added a few more ripples on the right side of the painting, and I'm just blending those out, squeezing more water out of my water brush, and blending and blurring. Remember too that you don't have to have a water brush to use watercolor pencils. You can use any brush, just dip it in a jar of water, and the only reason I like to use the water brushes is because it's so very convenient. You don't really need to have water jars or anything like that, and they're self-cleaning too. I'm adding another layer of light blue across the top of the painting just to suggest maybe the water continuing off into the horizon, and then I'm adding one more light layer of black on the underside of the dolphin's head. Blending that out and blending out a few more ridges on the top of the head. And there's our finished dolphin painting. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a comment below. Tell me how you use watercolor pencils, or what's your favorite brand. And hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe if you're new here. I post every week so you can be the first to catch all my brand new content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.